Maya Park wiped down the counter for the third time that morning. The coffee stains never really disappeared completely. They just faded into the old white surface like memories that refused to leave. She had been working at the Desert Rose Diner for 6 years now. 6 long years of breakfast orders, lunch rushes, and dinner shifts that all blended together into one endless cycle. The morning sun came through the front windows and made everything look golden. It was almost beautiful, if you ignored the cracked vinyl seats and the ceiling tiles that had water stains from last winter's leak. Maya tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear and smiled at the truck driver sitting at the counter. He wanted more coffee. They always wanted more coffee. "Thanks, sweetheart," the man said as she filled his cup. Maya nodded and moved on to the next table. She had learned not to correct customers who called her sweetheart or honey or darling. It was just easier that way. In the kitchen, Frank was cooking eggs and humming along to the radio. He owned the diner and had given Maya a job when she desperately needed one. He was a good man with a big heart and an even bigger belly. He treated his staff like family, which made Maya feel guilty about the thoughts she sometimes had about leaving. But where would she go? What would she do? She was 28 years old, and her biggest accomplishment was remembering complicated breakfast orders without writing them down. That was not entirely true, and Maya knew it. Once, a long time ago, she had been someone different. She had been a student at MIT, one of the best engineering schools in the world. She had studied aerospace engineering and dreamed of building rockets that would take people to Mars. She had been so close to finishing her degree. Just 1 year left, then her father got sick. Cancer. It moved through his body like a wildfire, fast and cruel. Maya had to make a choice. She could stay at school and finish her degree, or she could go home and take care of the man who had raised her alone after her mother left when Maya was 6. It was not really a choice at all. She went home to Arizona. She sat by her father's bedside and held his hand through chemotherapy sessions that left him weak and hollow. She read to him from his favorite books and pretended not to notice when he cried because he knew he was ruining her future. "Go back to school," he had said many times. "I will be fine," but he was not fine. And Maya stayed. She took a job at the diner to pay for his medical bills and their rent. She worked double shifts and learned to smile even when she was so tired her bones ached. Her father died 2 years after she came home. He never got to see her graduate. After he passed, Maya thought about going back to MIT, but the student loans had piled up. The medical debt was crushing, and somewhere along the way, she had lost the confidence that made her believe she could build rockets. Now she just built towers of dirty plates and carried them to the kitchen. "Order up," Frank called from the kitchen. Maya grabbed the plates and brought them to table 7. A family with 3 small children who were making a mess with syrup. The mother looked exhausted. The father was on his phone. Maya remembered when her own father used to take her to diners like this one. He would let her order whatever she wanted, and would listen to her talk about space and stars and all the things she wanted to discover. During her break, Maya sat in the back office and pulled out her phone. She had a habit that Frank thought was strange. She read aerospace engineering journals. She followed NASA updates. She watched videos of rocket launches and read articles about new propulsion systems. She could not build rockets anymore, but she could not stop thinking about them either. Today there was a news alert on her phone. NASA was having problems with their new rocket engine. The Artemis program, which was supposed to take astronauts back to the moon, was facing serious delays. Engineers had been testing a new engine design, but it kept failing. Every test ended in shutdown. Every failure cost millions of dollars and weeks of lost time. Maya clicked on the article and read the details. The engine was shutting down during high-stress ignition sequences. The fuel injection system was showing irregular harmonics. The engineers were stumped. They had tried dozens of different solutions, but nothing worked. Maya felt something stir in her chest. She knew this problem, or at least she thought she did. It reminded her of the research she had done for her thesis at MIT. She had spent months studying fuel injection harmonics in high-performance rocket engines. She had discovered some interesting patterns, some unusual solutions. Her professor had called her work brilliant, but that was a lifetime ago. That was when she was someone who mattered. "Maya, we got customers," Jenna called from the front. Jenna was 19 and full of energy and dreams. She wanted to save enough money to go to community college. She often asked Maya why someone as smart as her was still working at a diner. Maya never had a good answer. The truth was complicated. The truth was that she was afraid. Afraid of trying and failing. Afraid of being reminded that she had given up on her dreams. Afraid that maybe she was not as smart as she used to be. She put her phone away and went back to work. The lunch rush was starting. A group of construction workers came in, loud and hungry. They ordered burgers and fries and made jokes that were not quite appropriate. Maya laughed politely and took their orders. Outside in the parking lot, there was a commotion. One of the customers' trucks had broken down. The transmission had fallen off right there in the parking lot. Two mechanics from the garage down the street came to look at it. They spent an hour examining the truck and arguing about what was wrong. Maya watched through the window during a quiet moment. She could see what they were doing wrong. They had installed a part backward. It was obvious if you knew what to look for. During her break, she walked outside and stood near the truck. The mechanics were frustrated and sweating in the Arizona heat. "Excuse me," Maya said quietly. "I think that part is backward." The two men looked at her. One of them laughed. "Thanks, honey, but we know what we're doing. I'm just saying if you reverse that coupling, it might work better," Maya said. She felt her face getting hot. Why had she said anything? "We've been doing this for 20 years, the other mechanic said. He was not mean about it, but he was clearly dismissing her. "But we appreciate the input." Maya shrugged and went back inside. She felt stupid. Of course they did not want advice from a waitress. Why would they? An hour later, she saw through the window that they had figured it out. The part had been backward, just like she said. They fixed it and the truck started right up. Neither of them came inside to say anything to her. They just packed up their tools and left. That was how it always was. Maya was invisible. She was just the woman who brought coffee and took orders. Nobody looked at her and saw an engineer. Nobody looked at her and saw someone who could solve complex problems. They just saw a waitress in a stained apron. That night, Maya went home to her small apartment. It was not much, just a bedroom, a tiny kitchen, and a bathroom with tiles that were coming loose. But it was hers. She had made it home with posters of space shuttles and rockets on the walls. Her bookshelves were full of engineering textbooks that she could not bear to sell. On her desk was a folder containing her unfinished thesis. She had not looked at it in months, maybe even a year. Opening it felt like opening a wound. But tonight she pulled it out. She read through her research on fuel injection harmonics. She looked at her calculations and diagrams. The work was good. Really good. Her professor had said she was onto something important. Her phone rang. It was Sarah, her best friend from MIT. Sarah had finished her degree and now worked at SpaceX. She was living the dream that Maya had lost. "Hey, how are you?" Sarah's voice was bright and cheerful. "We're having a reunion next month for our class. You should come." Maya looked around her small apartment. She looked down at her work uniform that she had not changed out of yet. She thought about standing in a room full of successful engineers having to explain why she was serving pancakes instead of building rockets. "I can't make it," Maya said. "I have to work." "You always have to work," Sarah said, and there was frustration in her voice. "Maya, when are you going to move on? It's been 6 years. You could go back to school. You could apply for jobs. You're too smart to be stuck there." Maya felt anger flash through her. Sarah did not understand. Sarah had not had to watch her father die slowly. Sarah had not had to choose between her dreams and her family. Sarah had gotten to finish her degree and walk into her perfect job and her perfect life. "I'm fine where I am," Maya said. "I have to go." She hung up before Sarah could say anything else. She knew she was being unfair. Sarah was just trying to help. But sometimes help felt like judgment. Maya turned on her television. The news was showing another story about NASA's engine problems. The delays were getting serious. There was talk about pushing back the moon mission by a year or more. Billions of dollars were at stake. America's return to space was in jeopardy. The reporter said that NASA engineers were working around the clock to solve the problem. They were the best minds in aerospace engineering. If they could not figure it out, who could? Maya stared at the screen. She thought about the mechanics in the parking lot who had not listened to her. She thought about all the times people had underestimated her because of where she worked. She thought about her thesis sitting on her desk, full of research that might actually help. It was a crazy idea. It was probably a stupid idea. But Maya could not get it out of her head. What if she contacted NASA? What if she told them what she knew? What if her research could actually help solve their problem? They would never listen to a waitress from Arizona. They would laugh at her email and delete it. She would just be embarrassing herself. But what if they did listen? What if her work mattered? Maya made a decision. She opened her laptop and started typing an email. It was 3 a.m. before she finished. The email explained the problem she saw in their engine design. It detailed her research on fuel injection harmonics. It included calculations and diagrams and solutions that might work. Her finger hovered over the send button. This was crazy. This was the kind of thing that would make her look foolish. NASA probably got thousands of emails from random people claiming they could help. Why would they pay attention to hers? But then Maya thought about her father. She thought about how he had believed in her even when she stopped believing in herself. She thought about the 19-year-old version of herself, who had walked onto the MIT campus full of confidence and dreams. She pressed send. Then she closed her laptop and tried to sleep, certain that nothing would come of it. Certain that she had just made a fool of herself, but also feeling something she had not felt in a long time. She felt like maybe, just maybe, she was still an engineer after all. 2 weeks passed and Maya did not think about the email anymore. Or at least she tried not to think about it. Every time it popped into her mind, she felt a wave of embarrassment. What had she been thinking? NASA probably received hundreds of emails like hers every day. Some person with no credentials claiming they could solve problems that real engineers could not figure out. She imagined someone in an office reading her email and laughing before deleting it. Life went on as usual. She worked her shifts at the diner. She served coffee and eggs and smiled at customers who barely noticed her. Frank told her she seemed distracted. Jenna asked if she was feeling okay. Maya lied and said she was fine. The truth was that she felt restless. Sending that email had stirred something inside her. It was like opening a door she had kept locked for years. All her old dreams and hopes had come flooding back. She found herself staying up late reading aerospace journals again. She watched videos of rocket launches and felt that old familiar excitement building in her chest. But what was the point? She was a waitress. That door had closed a long time ago. It was a Tuesday morning, the slowest day of the week, when Maya's phone rang. She was in the middle of the breakfast rush, carrying a tray of pancakes to table 4. The phone was in her apron pocket and she ignored it. Customers came first. The phone rang again. And again. By the 4th call, Frank noticed. "You going to answer that?" he asked from behind the grill. Maya set down the tray and pulled out her phone. Unknown number. Probably a spam call. She almost declined it, but something made her answer. "Hello? Is this Maya Park?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes, this is Maya. Ms. Park, my name is Dr. Patricia Chen. I'm calling from NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Alabama." Maya stopped walking. She stood in the middle of the diner, holding her phone, certain she had heard wrong. "I'm sorry, what?" "NASA," the woman repeated. "I'm calling about the email you sent us 2 weeks ago. The one about the Artemis engine failures." Maya's heart started pounding so hard she thought everyone in the diner could hear it. This had to be a joke. Someone was pranking her. "Is this real?" Dr. Chen laughed, a warm sound. "Yes, Ms. Park, this is very real. Your email was forwarded through several departments before it reached my desk. I have to say your analysis of the fuel injection harmonics problem is fascinating. We've been working on this issue for 8 months and you identified something we completely missed." Maya looked around the diner. Everything seemed suddenly unreal. The truck drivers eating scrambled eggs. The retired couple sharing a waffle. Jenna wiping down tables. Frank flipping burgers. Her whole life happening around her while this impossible phone call was taking place. "I don't understand," Maya said. "You actually read my email?" "We read it very carefully," Dr. Chen said. "Multiple times, in fact. Your proposed solution using modified baffles and adjusted fuel flow timing is exactly the kind of innovative thinking we need. I'd like to set up a video conference with our engineering team. Would you be available for a call tomorrow?" Maya's mind was spinning. Yes, I can do that. Excellent. I'll send you a meeting link. One more thing, Ms. Park, I looked you up. I see you attended MIT for aerospace engineering but didn't complete your degree. Can I ask why? Here it was. The moment where Maya had to admit she was not really qualified. That she was just a waitress who had sent a presumptuous email. "My father got sick. I had to leave school to take care of him. I never went back." There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Dr. Chen said something Maya did not expect. I'm sorry about your father. And I want you to know something. We don't care about your degree, Miss Park. We care about your solution. If your analysis is correct, and we believe it is, you might have just saved the Artemis program. Can you walk us through your calculations tomorrow? Maya felt tears starting to form in her eyes. She blinked them back quickly. Yes, I can do that. Perfect. I'll send the meeting details. And Ms. Park, thank you for reaching out. It took courage to send that email. After Dr. Chen hung up, Maya stood there holding her phone. Jenna came up next to her. Are you okay? You look like you saw a ghost. I need to talk to Frank, Maya said. Frank was surprised when Maya asked for an extended break the next day. How long do you need? I don't know. Maybe an hour? Maybe 2? Maya took a breath. Frank, that was NASA on the phone. They want to talk to me about rocket engines. Frank stared at her. Then he started laughing. You're joking. Maya pulled out her phone and showed him the email chain with Dr. Chen. Frank's eyes got wider as he read. When he looked up at Maya, his expression had completely changed. You really are some kind of genius, aren't you? I'm not a genius, Maya said. I just understand fuel injection systems. Take all the time you need, Frank said. Hell, take the whole day if you want. NASA doesn't call every day. That night, Maya could not sleep. She kept going over her calculations, making sure everything was correct. What if she had made a mistake? What if she got on the call with real NASA engineers and they realized she had no idea what she was talking about? She would be humiliated. She would prove that she was just a waitress playing pretend. But then she looked at her work. Really looked at it. The math was solid. The theory was sound. This was not pretend. This was real engineering, and she knew what she was doing. The next morning, Maya dressed in the nicest clothes she owned. A simple blouse and clean jeans. It felt strange not putting on her work uniform. Frank set up the diner's back office for her call. He moved boxes of supplies and cleaned off the desk. You need anything? Water, coffee? I'm good, Maya said, though her hands were shaking. The video call started at exactly 10 o'clock. Maya's screen filled with faces. 12 people, all NASA engineers, all staring at her. Dr. Chen was there, smiling encouragingly. The others looked skeptical or curious or just tired. Everyone, this is Maya Park, Dr. Chen said. Maya, why don't you walk us through your analysis of the harmonics problem? Maya took a breath and started talking. At first, her voice shook, but as she got into the technical details, something changed. She forgot about being nervous. She forgot about the fancy degrees and credentials that everyone else on the call probably had. She just focused on the problem and her solution. She explained how the fuel injection timing was creating resonance waves that built up during high-stress ignition. She showed how these waves were interfering with the combustion stability. She walked them through her proposed modifications, showing exactly how adjusted baffle placement and modified flow timing would dampen the problematic harmonics. About halfway through her presentation, one of the senior engineers interrupted. His name tag said Dr. Marcus Webb. Ms. Park, your math here assumes a linear relationship between flow rate and harmonic frequency. That's not how it works in real-world applications. There are too many variables. Maya felt her stomach drop. But then she looked at her calculations again. She knew she was right. With respect, Dr. Webb, I accounted for the nonlinear variables. If you look at equation 7, you'll see I included correction factors for temperature variance, pressure fluctuations, and turbulent flow patterns. The relationship appears linear in the simplified model, but the full calculation is much more complex. Dr. Webb frowned and looked at his own screen. The room was quiet. Maya held her breath. Then another engineer, a younger man, spoke up. She's right. I'm running her numbers now with our simulation software. The model holds up even with the non-linear factors. Dr. Webb looked surprised. Run it again with the actual test data from our last 3 failures. There was more silence as engineers typed on their keyboards. Maya waited, feeling like she might throw up. She was sitting in a diner's back office, surrounded by boxes of napkins and cleaning supplies, arguing about rocket science with NASA engineers. This was insane. The model works, someone finally said. Her modifications should eliminate the harmonic interference. Maybe not completely, but enough to allow stable combustion. Dr. Chen was smiling. Maya, this is excellent work. How long did it take you to develop this analysis? Maya thought about all the late nights reading journals. All the years of keeping her mind sharp even when she was just serving coffee. I've been thinking about fuel injection harmonics for about 7 years. The specific solution for your engine took me about 3 days to work out. One of the engineers laughed in disbelief. We've had a team of 20 people working on this for 8 months. Sometimes fresh eyes see things that experienced eyes miss, Dr. Chen said. Maya, would you be willing to consult with us on the implementation? We're planning a test with your modifications in about a week. We'd like you here in person. Maya could not speak for a moment. They wanted her to come to NASA in person. You want me to come to Alabama? We'll cover all expenses, of course. Travel, hotel, and a consultation fee. This is too important to do remotely. We need your expertise on site. Your expertise. Maya had not heard anyone say those words to her in 6 years. She had almost forgotten what it felt like to be seen as an expert at something other than remembering breakfast orders. I'll need to arrange time off work, Maya said, and immediately felt foolish. She was talking to NASA engineers about getting time off from a diner, but Dr. Chen just nodded. Of course. We can be flexible with dates. When works best for you? After the call ended, Maya sat in the back office for a long time. Her hands were still shaking, but now it was from excitement instead of nerves. She had done it. She had presented her work to NASA engineers and they had taken her seriously. They wanted her help. Frank poked his head in. How did it go? They want me to fly to Alabama, Maya said. They're going to test my modifications. Frank let out a whoop and pulled Maya into a hug. I knew it. I knew you were special. The news spread through the diner quickly. By lunchtime, all the regular customers knew that Maya was going to work with NASA. Most of them were amazed and congratulatory. A few seemed skeptical, like they did not quite believe that their waitress could be smart enough to help rocket scientists. Old Bill, a retired engineer who ate lunch at the diner every day, was the most excited. I always knew you had something special, he told Maya. The way you talked about things, the books you read, you're going to do great things. That evening, Maya video called her mother. When she told her about NASA, her mother started crying. Happy tears this time. Your father would be so proud, she said. He always knew you'd find your way back to your dreams. Maya cried too. For the first time in years, she felt like maybe her father's sacrifice had not been for nothing. Maybe all those years of struggling and working and feeling lost had led her exactly where she needed to be. Sarah called that night too. Maya told her everything. Sarah was shocked and thrilled. This is amazing. I'm so proud of you. Are you nervous? Terrified, Maya admitted. What if I mess up? What if I get there and realize I don't know what I'm doing? Maya, you just impressed 12 NASA engineers with your analysis. You know exactly what you're doing. You just forgot for a while. Over the next week, Maya prepared for her trip. She bought professional clothes with money she had been saving for emergencies. This felt like an emergency of a different kind. She reviewed her calculations over and over. She read everything she could find about the Artemis program and the specific engine design they were testing. Jenna helped her pack. You're really doing this, Jenna said, folding Maya's new clothes carefully. You're really going to NASA. I'm really going, Maya said, and finally let herself believe it was real. Maya had never been on an airplane before. She had seen them in the sky, had watched them take off and land on television, but she had never actually been inside one. As she sat in her seat on the flight from Phoenix to Huntsville, Alabama, she gripped the armrests and tried to remember how to breathe. The businessman sitting next to her noticed her white knuckles. First time flying? He asked kindly. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. It gets easier, he said. Where are you headed? Huntsville, Maya managed to say. For work? What kind of work? This was the moment. Maya could say she was a waitress. That was safe and familiar. But something made her tell the truth. I'm an aerospace engineer. I'm going to NASA. The words felt strange in her mouth, like speaking a foreign language she used to know. But they also felt right. The businessman looked impressed. That's incredible. What will you be working on? Rocket engines, Maya said, and felt a smile spreading across her face despite her fear of flying. I'm helping them solve a problem with their new propulsion system. She talked about her work for the rest of the flight. Not in detail, nothing that was confidential, but enough to feel like she was reclaiming a part of herself that had been lost. When the plane landed, Maya felt like a different person than the one who had boarded in Phoenix. A driver was waiting for her at the airport, holding a sign with her name on it. A NASA driver sent specifically for her. Maya felt like she was living in someone else's life. The drive to Marshall Space Flight Center took about 30 minutes. Maya pressed her face to the window, trying to take in everything. The town was green in a way that Arizona never was. Trees everywhere and a softness to the air. Then they turned a corner and Maya saw the NASA facility. Massive buildings spread across hundreds of acres. Rocket test stands that looked like enormous metal towers. Signs pointing to different laboratories and research centers. This was real. This was actually happening. Dr. Chen was waiting at the main entrance. She was shorter than Maya expected, with gray-streaked black hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore jeans and a NASA polo shirt, and her smile was warm and genuine.
Maya, welcome to Marshall.
How was your flight? Terrifying and amazing, Maya said honestly. Dr. Chen laughed. First time flying? Is it that obvious? You have the look. Don't worry, it gets easier. Come on, let me show you around before we get to work. The facility was incredible. Dr. Chen walked Maya through laboratories where engineers were testing materials that would go to the moon. They passed clean rooms where delicate instruments were being assembled. They saw computer rooms where simulations ran on screens that covered entire walls. Maya felt like a kid in a toy store wanting to stop and examine everything. This is where we test the engines, Dr. Chen said as they approached a massive outdoor structure. The test stand was bigger than any building in Maya's hometown. Your modifications will be tested here tomorrow. Maya felt her stomach flip. What if it doesn't work? Dr. Chen looked at her seriously. Then we'll figure out why and try something else. That's what engineering is, Maya. We try, we fail, we learn, we try again. But I have a good feeling about your solution. The simulations all look promising. They went to the engineering building where Maya would be working. The team was waiting in a large conference room. 12 engineers, the same ones from the video call. They all stood when Maya entered, which made her feel awkward and honored at the same time. Dr. Chen made introductions. Most of the engineers were friendly and welcoming. They shook Maya's hand and told her they were excited to work with her. A few were more reserved, watching her with careful, measuring eyes. And then there was Dr. Marcus Webb. He was tall and thin, probably in his 50s, with the kind of face that looked like he did not smile often. Ms. Park, he said, shaking her hand firmly. I've reviewed your calculations in detail. They're interesting, but I'm not convinced they'll work in practice. Theory is one thing. Real-world application is something else entirely. Maya felt her confidence shrinking. I understand. I've tried to account for as many real-world variables as possible. We'll see tomorrow, Dr. Webb said. It was not quite hostile, but it was not friendly either. Dr. Chen stepped in smoothly. Why don't we walk Maya through the current engine setup? She should understand exactly what we're working with. The next few hours were intense. The team showed Maya detailed diagrams of the engine, explained their previous test results, and walked her through all the failures they had experienced. Maya took notes and asked questions. She noticed things, small details that seemed important. There was a secondary issue with the cooling system that nobody had mentioned during their video call. This pressure differential here, Maya said, pointing to a diagram. Has anyone looked at how it might affect the fuel flow during the critical ignition phase? The engineers looked at each other. A younger engineer named David Kim spoke up. We noticed some unusual readings in that area, but we attributed them to sensor error. It might not be sensor error, Maya said carefully. If the pressure differential is creating turbulence in this section, it could compound the harmonic problem. The modifications might work better if we also address this issue. Dr. Webb frowned. Adding more modifications increases the risk of something going wrong. We should test your primary solution first before making other changes. I agree, said another engineer. Let's not overcomplicate things. But Dr. Chen was looking at the diagrams with interest. What if it's not overcomplicating? What if Maya's identified a secondary failure point that we've been missing? We could run a quick simulation to see if her concern is valid. They spent another hour running simulations. The results showed that Maya was right. The pressure differential could cause problems, and addressing it would make her primary modifications more effective. Dr. Webb looked frustrated, but nodded. Fine, we'll implement both changes for tomorrow's test. But if this fails, we're back to square one. The pressure was enormous. Maya felt it pressing down on her shoulders like a physical weight. These people had been working on this problem for 8 months. They had spent millions of dollars. They had reputations and careers riding on solving this issue, and now they were betting on the solution proposed by a waitress from Arizona who had never even finished her degree. That evening, Dr. Chen took Maya to dinner at a local barbecue restaurant. Maya was too nervous to eat much, but she appreciated the gesture. "You did well today," Dr. Chen said. "The team is impressed." "Dr. Webb doesn't seem impressed," Maya said. "Marcus is cautious, and he has reason to be. He was the lead engineer on a project 5 years ago that failed spectacularly. It set the program back by 2 years and cost him a promotion. He's afraid of failing again." Dr. Chen took a sip of her iced tea. "But he's also brilliant and fair. If your solution works, he'll be your biggest supporter. And if it doesn't work, then we try something else," Dr. Chen repeated. "Maya, can I tell you something? When I first saw your email, I almost deleted it. We get so many messages from people who think they can solve our problems. Usually they're crackpots or people who don't understand the complexity of what we're doing. But something about your email was different. The math was solid. The thinking was clear. You weren't pretending to know things. You actually knew them." Maya felt tears threatening again. "I've been pretending not to know things for 6 years. It felt safer that way. Why?" Maya thought about how to answer. "Because when you try and fail, it hurts. When you don't try, you can tell yourself you might have succeeded if you had tried. It's easier, but less honest," Dr. Chen said gently. "You know what I think? I think you've been an engineer this whole time. You just didn't have anyone around who could see it. Everyone needs someone to believe in them before they can believe in themselves." That night, in her hotel room, Maya could not sleep. She paced back and forth, going over the test procedures in her mind. She checked her calculations one more time on her laptop. Everything looked right. Everything should work. But should was a dangerous word in engineering. At midnight, she called her mother. "I can't sleep," Maya admitted. "I'm terrified." "Of what?" "Of failing. Of proving that I was right to give up 6 years ago." Her mother was quiet for a moment. "Do you remember when you were 8 and you wanted to build a treehouse? You planned it for weeks. You drew diagrams and made lists of materials. Your father helped you gather everything you needed. And then when it was time to actually build it, you got scared. You said you didn't want to do it anymore." Maya remembered. "Dad made me do it anyway." "He did. And do you remember what happened? The treehouse fell apart the first time we tried to use it." "It did. And you cried and said you were a terrible builder." "But what did your father say?" Maya smiled despite her nerves. "He said that failing doesn't make you a failure. It makes you someone who tried. And then we built it again, better this time. Your father knew something important. The only real failure is not trying. Whatever happens tomorrow, Maya, you tried. You took a chance. You believed in yourself enough to reach out. That's already a success." After they hung up, Maya felt a little better. She thought about her father and the treehouse. They had rebuilt it stronger and more stable. It had lasted for years, a testament to learning from mistakes. Maybe that was what engineering really was, not getting things perfect the first time, but being willing to keep trying until you did. The morning of the test came faster than Maya wanted. She dressed carefully in her new professional clothes. She looked at herself in the hotel mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. She looked like an engineer. Maybe it was time to start feeling like one too. The drive to the facility felt too short. Maya wanted more time to prepare, but time had run out. The test was scheduled for 2 in the afternoon. That gave them the morning for final preparations and checks. Maya worked alongside the team, watching as they implemented her modifications. Every piece had to be perfect. Every measurement had to be exact. Dr. Webb questioned every detail. "Are you certain about this angle?" he would ask. "Or have you verified this calculation?" Maya understood now that he was not being hostile. He was being thorough. He could not afford another failure. None of them could. By noon, everything was ready. The engine sat on the test stand, looking massive and powerful and beautiful. Maya stared at it, trying to comprehend that her ideas, her calculations, her work was now part of this incredible machine. It did not seem real. The team gathered in the observation room. It was 3 miles from the test stand, but the room had screens showing every angle of the engine. Data would stream in real time during the test. They would see every measurement, every fluctuation, every success or failure as it happened. Dr. Chen stood next to Maya. "Ready?" Maya was not ready. She would never be ready. but she nodded anyway. Yes, the countdown began. Maya's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst out of her chest. This was it. This was the moment where she would find out if 6 years of keeping her dreams alive had been worth it, or if she had been fooling herself all along. The test would last 2 minutes. 2 minutes that would determine the future of the Artemis program. 2 minutes that would determine if Maya Park was really an engineer or just a waitress who got lucky with an email. The numbers counted down. 10 seconds. 5 seconds. Maya held her breath and watched the screens, praying that the math she had done in a small Arizona apartment would work in the real world of fire and fuel and forces that could tear metal apart. Ignition. The engine roared to life on the screens in front of Maya, even from 3 miles away. The observation room shook slightly. The sound came seconds later. A deep rumbling thunder that Maya felt in her bones. Fire and smoke poured from the test stand. Data began streaming across multiple monitors. Numbers and graphs updated every millisecond. Maya's eyes were locked on the fuel injection readings. That was where the previous tests had failed. That was where the harmonics problem would show up if her solution did not work. For the first 10 seconds, everything looked perfect. The fuel flow was smooth. The pressure was steady. The combustion was stable. 20 seconds. Still perfect. Maya felt Dr. Chen's hand squeeze her shoulder. Around the room, engineers were watching their screens with intense focus. Nobody was celebrating yet. They all knew that the failures usually happened between 30 and 60 seconds into the burn. 30 seconds. The critical moment approached. Maya's hands were shaking. She clasped them together and tried to focus on the data. The fuel injection harmonics graph showed small fluctuations. That was normal. But were they getting bigger? Was the pattern she feared starting to develop? 40 seconds. The moment when the last test had shut down an emergency protocol. The fluctuations stabilized. The graph showed exactly what Maya's calculations had predicted. The modified baffles were dampening the harmonic interference. The adjusted fuel flow timing was preventing resonance buildup. It was working. It was actually working. 50 seconds. Someone in the room let out a small cheer, but Dr. Webb shushed them immediately. "We're not done yet," he said sharply. "Stay focused. 60 seconds. They had passed the point where all previous tests failed. The engine was still burning strong. Maya felt tears starting to form, but she blinked them back. She needed to see the data clearly. She needed to watch for any problems. 70 seconds. The test was programmed to last 120 seconds, twice as long as any successful burn they had achieved before. The engine had to prove it could sustain stable combustion for a full simulated launch sequence. They were barely halfway there. 80 seconds. Maya noticed something. A small spike in the pressure differential she had identified the day before. It was minor, but it was there. Her secondary modification should handle it. She watched the numbers carefully. The spike leveled out. The cooling system compensated. Everything stayed green. 90 seconds. Champagne bottles appeared in the observation room. Someone must have brought them just in case. Engineers started opening them, the sound of popping corks mixing with the rumble from the test stand. But Maya could not celebrate yet. 30 seconds remained. 30 seconds where anything could still go wrong. 100 seconds. Dr. Webb was watching his screen with an expression Maya had not seen before. Hope. Actual hope on his face. David Kim, the young engineer sitting next to Maya, was grinning so wide it looked like his face might split in half. 110 seconds. Another pressure spike bigger than the first. This was the moment Maya had worried about. This was the secondary issue that nobody else had taken seriously at first. On the screen, Maya could see the engine responding. The modifications she had suggested were handling the increased stress, but barely. The numbers were right at the edge of acceptable parameters. "Come on," Maya whispered, not even realizing she was speaking out loud. "Hold together. 115 seconds." The pressure spike peaked and then started dropping. The engine stabilized again. Maya finally let herself breathe. 5 seconds left. Just 5 more seconds. 120 seconds. The engine shut down exactly as programmed. Perfect timing. Perfect execution. The test stand fell silent. Smoke drifted across the screens. And then the observation room erupted. Engineers were cheering, hugging each other, spraying champagne. Dr. Chen grabbed Maya and pulled her into a tight embrace. "You did it!" she shouted over the noise. "You actually did it!" Maya stood there overwhelmed. She had done it. Her calculations, her modifications, her solution. It had worked. The engine that had been failing for 8 months had just completed a perfect test burn. Because of her, Dr. Webb approached. For a moment, Maya thought he was going to criticize something, find some flaw in the test. But instead he extended his hand. "I was wrong," he said, and his voice was sincere. "Your analysis was not just correct. It was brilliant. You saw things that we missed, even with our years of experience. Thank you." Maya shook his hand, too stunned to speak. Dr. Webb, who had been so skeptical, was thanking her. The next few hours were a blur. The team analyzed the test data in detail. Maya's modifications had worked exactly as her calculations predicted. More than that, they had improved the engine's efficiency by 15%. The engine was not just fixed. It was better than the original design. The pressure spike at 110 seconds had been significant. Several engineers looked at that section of the data with concern. "If you hadn't caught that secondary issue," David Kim said to Maya, "we would have had a catastrophic failure right there. Your modification saved the engine." Maya looked at the data. He was right. Without her secondary fix, the engine would have torn itself apart at the 110-second mark. She had not just fixed one problem. She had fixed two, and the second one nobody else had even known existed. By evening, word was spreading through NASA. Engineers from other departments stopped by to congratulate the team. The success was major news within the space program. Someone mentioned that the NASA administrator wanted a briefing. Someone else said that reporters were asking questions. Dr. Chen pulled Maya aside. "The Public Affairs Office wants to do a press release. They want to tell the story of how you solved the engine problem. Are you comfortable with that?" Maya thought about it. Part of her wanted to hide, to stay anonymous. But another part, the part that had sent that email in the first place, knew that this moment mattered. "Okay," she said. "I'll do it." That night the press release went out. "Waitress solves NASA's rocket problem." Maya did not love the headline. It reduced her to her job instead of recognizing her as an engineer. But she understood why they wrote it that way. It was a good story. The kind of story that made people pay attention. Her phone started ringing almost immediately. Her mother called, crying with joy. Frank called from the diner, shouting over the noise of customers who were all celebrating. Jenna sent a dozen text messages full of exclamation points and heart emojis. Even Sarah called, laughing and saying, "I told you that you were meant for this." News outlets started requesting interviews. Morning shows wanted her to come on television. Science magazines wanted to write articles. Maya turned most of them down. She was not ready for that kind of attention. But she agreed to one interview with a local Alabama newspaper. Keep it simple, she thought. Tell the story and then get back to work. The reporter was a young woman named Jessica, who seemed genuinely excited about the story. "How does it feel?" she asked Maya. "Going from serving coffee to solving problems for NASA?" Maya thought about how to answer. "I never stopped being an engineer," she finally said. "I just had to do other work for a while. But I kept learning, kept reading, kept thinking about these problems. The diner was what I did to survive. Engineering is who I am." That quote ended up being the headline of the article. Maya liked it better than the press release headline. It felt more true. Dr. Chen found Maya in the hotel lobby the next morning.
"Walk with me," she said.
They went outside into the humid Alabama morning. "Maya, I need to talk to you about something important. NASA wants to offer you a consulting contract, 6 months, working with us on the Artemis program. The pay is good. We'll help you finish your degree if you want, completely funded, and if the 6 months go well, there could be a permanent position." Maya stopped walking. "You want to hire me?" "We want to hire you," Dr. Chen confirmed. "You have a rare gift, Maya. You see problems differently than people who have been doing this for decades. That fresh perspective is exactly what we need. What do you say?" What did she say? This was everything she had dreamed of 6 years ago. Everything she thought she had lost. Being offered back to her on a silver platter. "I need some time to think about it," Maya said, "of course. Take a week. But Maya, I hope you'll say yes. You belong here." Maya flew back to Arizona the next day. The flight was easier this time. She was starting to understand why people said flying got less scary, or maybe she was just less scared in general. She had faced her biggest fear and survived. She had put herself out there, risked failure, and succeeded. What was a little turbulence compared to that? The diner had a banner waiting for her when she arrived for her shift the next morning.
"Welcome home, rocket scientist." All the regular customers applauded when she walked in.
It was embarrassing and wonderful at the same time. Frank had tears in his eyes. "I'm so proud of you," he said, hugging her tight. Maya put on her apron and went back to work. Taking orders, serving coffee, clearing tables. Everything was the same, but everything felt different. She felt different. She moved through her shift with a lightness she had not felt in years. Jenna cornered her during the lunch rush. "You're leaving, aren't you?" she asked. Maya looked at the young woman who had become her friend. "I don't know yet. NASA offered me a job, but I haven't decided." "Maya," Jenna said seriously, "you have to go." "You have to?" "I've been working here for 2 years and you've been here the whole time. You've been so nice to me, helping me with my homework, encouraging me to go to college. You know why I'm going to college? Because of you. Because I saw someone smart and talented wasting her life here and I didn't want to end up the same way." "I wasn't wasting my life," Maya said, feeling defensive. "Yes, you were," Jenna said, but she said it gently. "And you know it. You were hiding. You were safe here, but you weren't living. Now you have a chance to actually live. Please take it." That afternoon, Frank asked Maya to sit with him during the slow period between lunch and dinner. "I know you're trying to decide what to do," he said. "And I want you to know that I understand if you leave. I've been watching you for 6 years, Maya. You're a good waitress, but you're a great engineer. Don't let loyalty to me keep you from your real life. You gave me a job when I needed it," Maya said. "You've been kind to me. I feel like I owe you." "You don't owe me anything," Frank said firmly. "I gave you a job because you needed one and you were qualified. You gave me 6 years of hard work. We're even, more than even. Now go do what you're meant to do." Maya went home that night and looked at her small apartment. Her books, her posters, her unfinished thesis. 6 years of her life contained in these few rooms. She thought about what Jenna had said. Had she been hiding? Or had she been recovering, rebuilding herself after loss? Maybe it was both. Maybe she had needed this time. Needed to grieve her father. Needed to learn that setbacks did not define her. Needed to discover that she was more than her circumstances. Maybe the diner had not been a prison. Maybe it had been a cocoon. She opened her laptop and pulled up her father's letter, the one she had found before going to Alabama. She read it again slowly. The measure of an engineer is not in never falling, but in always solving the problem in front of them. She had solved the problem. The big one, the rocket engine. But there was another problem in front of her now. What came next? How did she want to live the rest of her life? Maya picked up her phone and called Dr. Chen. "I want to accept your offer," she said. "When do I start?" Dr. Chen's joy was obvious even over the phone. "That's wonderful. Can you start in 3 weeks? That gives you time to wrap things up in Arizona." 3 weeks. Maya looked around her apartment. 3 weeks to say goodbye to this life and hello to a new one. It felt like enough time. It felt like exactly the right amount of time. The next morning, Maya told Frank she was leaving. He hugged her and told her again how proud he was. They agreed that she would work for 2 more weeks, giving him time to hire and train a replacement. Maya would spend her last week in Arizona packing and preparing for her new life. The news spread through town quickly. The mayor called and asked if they could organize a town hall in Maya's honor. It felt strange after years of being invisible to suddenly be celebrated, but Maya agreed. If her story could inspire even one person to keep pursuing their dreams, it would be worth the awkwardness. The town hall was scheduled for Saturday evening at the community center. Maya spent the day nervous and uncertain about what to say. She was not good at public speaking. She had spent 6 years trying to be invisible, and now she had to stand in front of her whole town and talk about herself. Her mother helped her pick out an outfit, something professional but not too formal. They settled on dark pants and a simple blue blouse. "You look perfect," her mother said, smoothing Maya's hair. "Your father would be so proud right now." The community center was surprisingly full when Maya arrived. She had not expected so many people to come. There were families with young children, teenagers, elderly couples, people she recognized from the diner and people she had never seen before. The mayor greeted her warmly and led her to a seat on the small stage. The mayor gave a speech about how proud the town was to have someone like Maya representing them. He talked about small towns and big dreams. Then he invited Maya to speak. She walked to the microphone on shaking legs. "Thank you all for coming," Maya started. Her voice sounded strange through the speakers. "I'm not really sure what to say. This all happened so fast. A month ago I was just serving breakfast and wondering if my life would ever change. Now I'm standing here about to start a job at NASA." She paused, looking at all the faces staring at her. "But I want to tell you something important. What happened to me is not magic. It's not luck. It's about refusing to let go of who you are, even when life gets hard. 6 years ago I had to leave school to take care of my father. I thought that was the end of my dreams. I thought I would be stuck forever." Maya saw Jenna in the audience watching intently. "But I kept learning. I kept reading. I kept solving problems in my head even when I was serving coffee. I stayed an engineer in here." She touched her chest. "Even when nobody else could see it. That's what I want you to remember. Your circumstances don't define you. Your setbacks don't define you. What defines you is what you refuse to give up on." The audience was quiet, listening. Maya felt her nervousness fading. "I also want to say that this town, this community helped me survive the hardest years of my life. Frank gave me a job when I needed one. Customers at the diner were kind to me. Bill talked to me about engineering and made me feel less alone. You all matter. Thank you for that." When Maya finished speaking, the applause was loud and genuine. People stood up. Maya felt tears in her eyes, but she blinked them back. The mayor presented her with a key to the city, which was a symbolic gesture but still made Maya feel honored. Then he opened the floor for questions. A young girl, maybe 10 years old, raised her hand. "Did you always know you were smart?" she asked. Maya smiled at her. "No. I spent a lot of years feeling like I wasn't smart enough, like I had failed. What I learned is that being smart isn't about getting everything right. It's about being curious, asking questions, and not giving up when things get hard." A teenager asked, "How did you know to send that email to NASA? Weren't you scared they would laugh at you?" "I was terrified," Maya admitted. "I almost didn't send it. I thought they would ignore me or think I was crazy. But I realized something important. The worst thing that could happen was nothing. They wouldn't respond and my life would stay the same. But if they did respond, everything could change. So I took the chance. Sometimes you have to risk looking foolish to get what you want." A teacher from the local high school stood up. "Would you be willing to come speak to my students before you leave? We have a lot of kids who think college isn't for them, or that they're not smart enough for science. Your story could really inspire them." Maya agreed immediately. "I'd be honored." After the town hall, people came up to talk to Maya individually. Parents brought their children to meet her. Teenagers asked for advice about college. An older man told her that his granddaughter wanted to be an engineer and could Maya write her a note of encouragement? Maya stayed for 2 hours talking to everyone, answering questions and feeling more connected to her community than she ever had before. On Monday, Maya went to the high school. The teacher had gathered students who were interested in science and engineering, about 30 kids. Maya sat on a desk at the front of the classroom, trying to seem approachable rather than formal. "Raise your hand if you've ever felt like you weren't smart enough for something," Maya said. Almost every hand went up. Me too, all the time. Even now, even after everything that happened, I sometimes feel like someone is going to discover I'm a fraud. That feeling doesn't go away. You just learn to not let it stop you. She told them about MIT, about her father's illness, about dropping out. She told them about the diner and feeling lost. She told them about keeping her mind active, about reading journals late at night, about solving problems on napkins during breaks. She showed them that success was not a straight line. It was messy and complicated and full of detours. "Can you really become an engineer if you start at community college?" one student asked. "My family can't afford a fancy school." "Absolutely," Maya said. "Where you start doesn't determine where you end up. I know engineers at NASA who started at community colleges. What matters is that you keep learning, keep challenging yourself, and don't give up. The path doesn't have to look like everyone else's path." A quiet girl in the back raised her hand. "What if you try and fail? What if you're not good enough?" Maya looked at her seriously. "Then you learn from the failure and try again." "I failed a lot. I failed when I had to leave MIT. I failed at first when the mechanics didn't listen to me about the truck. I almost failed to send that email to NASA because I was scared. But failure is only permanent if you stop trying. As long as you keep going, you're still succeeding." After the class, the quiet girl approached Maya. "I'm really good at math and physics. she said softly. But my parents want me to be a nurse like my mom. They say engineering is too hard for girls. Maya felt anger flash through her at that. Engineering is not too hard for girls. I work with incredible female engineers at NASA. Don't let anyone tell you what you can't do based on your gender. If you're good at math and physics and you love problem solving, you could be a great engineer. Do you want me to talk to your parents? The girl looked surprised. You would do that? Of course. Give me their phone number. I'll call them. Maya spent that evening on the phone with the girl's parents. She explained what engineering really was, talked about career prospects and salary potential, and shared her own story. By the end of the call, the parents agreed to support their daughter's interest in engineering. It was a small thing, but it felt important. One more person who would get a chance to pursue their dreams. Jenna was struggling with her college applications. She asked Maya to look them over. They sat in the diner after closing, paperwork spread across a booth. Maya helped her revise her essays, making them stronger and more confident. She wrote Jenna a recommendation letter that detailed how hardworking and determined she was. You're going to be great, Maya told her. You're going to go to college and study engineering and build amazing things. And you're going to remember that you're just as capable as anyone else there. Jenna was crying. I'm going to miss you so much. I'll miss you too, Maya said, hugging her. But we'll stay in touch. And you can visit me in Alabama. I'll show you around NASA. Maya's last shift at the diner was on Friday. Frank insisted on throwing a small party after closing. The staff and regular customers gathered to say goodbye. Bill gave her a worn textbook from his own engineering career, filled with notes in the margins. This helped me, he said. Maybe it will help you too. Frank gave her a framed photo of the diner staff, everyone smiling at the camera. Don't forget where you came from, he said. I could never forget, Maya promised. This place saved me. You all saved me, she meant it. The diner had not been a prison or a waste of time. It had been a refuge. A place to heal and rebuild after loss. A place where she learned that her worth was not tied to her job title. She had been an engineer the whole time, even when she was serving coffee. She just had to remember it. The final week in Arizona passed in a blur of packing and goodbyes. Maya's apartment slowly emptied as she boxed up her belongings. NASA was arranging for her things to be shipped to Alabama. She was keeping only what she needed for the flight and her first few days. Her mother came over to help pack. They worked together in comfortable silence, wrapping dishes and folding clothes. Are you scared? Her mother asked. Terrified, Maya admitted. What if I can't do it? What if I was only lucky with the engine problem and now I'll fail at everything else? Her mother stopped packing and took Maya's hands. Listen to me. You are brilliant. You always have been. You got lucky with the opportunity, not with the solution. The solution was all you. Your knowledge, your skill, your hard work. NASA doesn't hire people out of luck. They hire people out of talent. Trust yourself. I'm trying, Maya said. Try harder, her mother said, but she was smiling. On Maya's last night in Arizona, she drove to the cemetery where her father was buried. She had not visited in months. Life had been too busy, too full of work and exhaustion. But now she needed to say goodbye. She sat by his gravestone in the evening light and talked to him like he was still there. I did it, Dad, she said. I'm going to NASA. I'm going to work on rockets like we always talked about. I know you wanted me to go back to school right away, but I think this path was better. I learned things at the diner that I never would have learned in a classroom. I learned humility and patience, and that being smart isn't enough. You also have to be kind. The evening was quiet except for birds singing in the nearby trees. Maya felt peace settling over her. I hope you're proud of me. I hope you know that I never gave up. Not really. I just took the long way around. Thank you for believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. She stayed until dark, just sitting and remembering. Then she drove home to her mother's house, where she would spend her last night in Arizona. The next morning, her mother drove her to the airport. They were both trying not to cry. Call me when you land, her mother said. And call me every week. I want to hear about everything. I will, Maya promised. I love you, Mom. I love you too. Now go build rockets and show the world what you can do. The flight to Alabama felt different than the first time. Maya was not scared anymore. She was excited. She was ready. Below her, the desert gave way to grasslands, then forests, then the green landscape of the south. She was flying toward her new life, carrying everything she had learned in the old one. Dr. Chen picked her up at the airport. "Welcome home," she said, and Maya realized that was exactly what it felt like. Coming home to the place she was meant to be. They drove to Maya's new apartment, which NASA had helped her find. It was small but nice, close to the facility. Maya's boxes would arrive tomorrow. For tonight, she had just a suitcase and a backpack and a future full of possibilities. "Get some rest," Dr. Chen said. "We start work tomorrow morning." Big day ahead. That night, alone in her new apartment, Maya stood at the window and looked out at the unfamiliar city. Somewhere out there was the facility where she would work. Somewhere out there were the rockets she would help build. Somewhere out there was the moon, waiting for humanity to return. Maya thought about the journey that had brought her here. The pain of losing her father. The struggle of working at the diner. The fear of being seen. The courage of sending that email. The success of the engine test. And now this, standing on the edge of a new beginning. She was not the same person who had left MIT 6 years ago. That Maya had been confident but untested. This Maya had been broken and rebuilt. This Maya knew what failure felt like and had survived it. This Maya understood that setbacks were not endings, just redirections. "Thank you," she whispered to her father, to the universe, to whatever force had guided her here. "Thank you for not giving up on me when I gave up on myself." Tomorrow she would start her new job. Tomorrow she would prove that she belonged here. Tomorrow she would begin the next chapter of her story. But tonight she just stood at the window and let herself feel proud of how far she had come. 3 months passed faster than Maya thought possible. She settled into her work at NASA with a mixture of terror and joy. Every morning she woke up and had to remind herself that this was real. She was actually working on the Artemis program. She was actually helping build systems that would take humans back to the moon. The work was intense. Maya was part of a team refining the propulsion systems for the lunar lander. Her success with the engine had earned her respect, but it also meant expectations were high. She had to prove every day that she belonged here, that she was not just lucky once but genuinely skilled. Dr. Webb had become an unexpected mentor. After his initial skepticism, he had recognized Maya's talent and taken her under his wing. He taught her the practical aspects of aerospace engineering that textbooks never covered. How to navigate bureaucracy. How to present technical information to non-technical managers. How to push back against bad ideas without making enemies. "You have good instincts," he told her one day. "But instincts aren't enough in this environment. You need to learn how to communicate your ideas so that people listen, even when you're the smartest person in the room, especially when you're the smartest person in the room." Maya was also finishing her degree. NASA had arranged for her to complete her coursework online through MIT. It was strange going back to school while also working full-time. But it felt important to finish what she had started. Not because she needed the degree to do her job, but because she had promised herself she would. Her life had a rhythm now. Work during the day, classes in the evening, calls with her mother on weekends. Jenna sent updates about her progress at community college. She was doing well, top of her class in physics. Frank sent pictures of the new waitress he had hired, a single mother who needed a job just like Maya had. The diner was still there, still serving coffee and pancakes, still being a refuge for people who needed one. Sarah visited one weekend, flying in from California where SpaceX was headquartered. She and Maya walked around Huntsville, catching up on 6 years of lost time. "I'm sorry I didn't understand," Sarah said. "When you had to leave school, I thought you were giving up. I didn't realize you were being brave." "I didn't feel brave," Maya said. "I felt like I was failing." "That's what brave is," Sarah said. "Doing what you have to do even when it feels like failing." In her 4th month at NASA, Maya received an invitation. The first crewed test of the Artemis rocket was scheduled for 6 months away. They wanted her on the launch team. She would be in the control room when astronauts flew on a rocket that contained her modifications, her solutions, her work. "This is history," Dr. Chen said when she told Maya. "You're going to be part of history." Maya called her mother that night. "They want me on the launch team for the first crewed flight." Her mother screamed so loud Maya had to hold the phone away from her ear. "That's incredible. Can I come watch?" "Of course," Maya said. "I'll get you tickets. And I'm bringing Frank and Jenna and Bill too. Everyone who helped me get here." The months leading up to the launch were the busiest of Maya's life. There were meetings and tests and reviews. Every system had to be checked and rechecked. Every potential problem had to be identified and solved. The pressure was enormous. They were sending human beings into space. Any mistake could be fatal. Maya worked longer hours than she ever had at the diner. But it was different. At the diner, she had worked hard to survive. Here, she worked hard to build something incredible. The exhaustion felt purposeful. One night, working late in her office, Dr. Webb stopped by. "Go home, Maya," he said. "You can't work 24 hours a day." "I'm almost done with these calculations," Maya said, not looking up from her screen. "The calculations will still be there tomorrow." Dr. Webb pulled up a chair. "Can I tell you something? 5 years ago, I worked myself into exhaustion on a project. I was so focused on not failing that I stopped sleeping, stopped eating properly, stopped taking care of myself. And you know what happened? I made mistakes because I was too tired. The project failed partly because I couldn't see clearly anymore." Maya looked at him. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that being dedicated is good, but burning yourself out helps nobody. Go home, get some sleep, come back tomorrow with fresh eyes. We need you sharp, not exhausted." Maya went home. She realized she had not called her mother in 2 weeks. She had not talked to Jenna. She had not even left her apartment except to go to work. She was so afraid of failing that she was forgetting to live. She called her mother. They talked for an hour about nothing important. Her mother's garden, the neighbor's new dog, the weather in Arizona. It was exactly what Maya needed, a reminder that life existed outside of work, outside of rockets and calculations and pressure. A documentary crew came to interview Maya about her story. She had agreed to do it months ago but had been too busy to follow through. Now they spent 2 days following her around, filming her at work, asking questions about her journey. They also filmed interviews with Frank, Jenna, Bill, and her mother. "Why do you think your story matters?" the director asked Maya. Maya thought about it. "Because people give up on themselves too easily. They have setbacks and think it's over. I want them to know it's not over. Your path might be different than you planned, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. Sometimes the detours teach you things you needed to learn." They filmed Maya giving a talk at a local high school. She told the students about failure and persistence and not letting anyone else define who they could be. After the talk, several girls came up to thank her. "I want to be an engineer," one said. "But everyone says it's too hard." "It is hard," Maya told her honestly. "But hard doesn't mean impossible. It just means you have to work for it. And the things you work hardest for are usually the things that matter most." The weeks before the launch felt like they lasted both forever and no time at all. Maya was nervous in a way she had never been before. The engine test had been important, but it was unmanned. This was different. Real astronauts would climb into the spacecraft. Real people would trust their lives to the systems Maya had worked on. "What if something goes wrong?" she asked Dr. Chen one night. "Then we figure out what went wrong and fix it for next time," Dr. Chen said. "But Maya, everything is going to work. We've tested these systems hundreds of times. The astronauts are trained for every possible scenario. You've done your job perfectly. Now you have to trust that everyone else did their jobs too." Maya's guests arrived 3 days before the launch. Her mother, Frank, Jenna, and Bill flew into Florida together. Maya picked them up at the airport and drove them to Kennedy Space Center. Seeing their faces as they took in the massive facility, the rockets, the history made Maya emotional. These were the people who had believed in her when she could not believe in herself. She gave them a personal tour, showing them areas most visitors never saw. She introduced them to her colleagues. Dr. Chen told Frank, "Thank you for giving Maya a place to heal. Sometimes people need time to find their way back to themselves." Frank had tears in his eyes. She never needed to find her way back. She was always who she was meant to be. She just needed the right moment. The night before the launch, the team gathered for a final briefing. Everything was ready. The rocket was fueled. The astronauts were prepared. All systems showed green. They would launch at dawn when the light was perfect and the winds were calm. Maya barely slept. She kept running through scenarios in her head, checking calculations she had already checked 100 times. At 3 in the morning, she gave up on sleep and went for a walk. The Florida night was humid and full of strange insect sounds. In the distance, she could see the rocket on the launch pad, lit up against the dark sky. In a few hours, that rocket would carry people into space. She thought about the journey that had brought her here. From MIT to her father's bedside, from the diner to that late-night email, From the engine test to this moment, every step had been necessary. Every setback had taught her something. She was not the person she would have been if she had finished MIT on schedule. She was something better, something stronger, something more complete. Launch day arrived with perfect weather. Clear skies, light winds, ideal conditions. Maya and her guests went to the VIP viewing area, 3 miles from the launch pad. She wore her NASA badge with pride. Her mother held her hand. Jenna was taking pictures of everything. Bill was explaining technical details to Frank, both of them like excited kids. 2 hours before launch, Maya had to leave them. She was needed in the control room. "I'll see you after," she said, hugging everyone. Her mother held her tight. "We'll be watching. We're so proud of you." The control room was controlled chaos. Hundreds of people at computer stations, monitoring thousands of systems. Maya took her assigned position at a console monitoring propulsion systems. This was it. This was the moment everything came down to. The astronauts boarded the spacecraft. The countdown began. Maya watched her screens, tracking every detail of the propulsion systems. Everything looked perfect. All the modifications she had implemented were functioning exactly as designed. The final minutes felt like hours. Maya's heart was pounding. Around her, engineers spoke in calm voices, calling out readings and confirmations. Everyone was professional, focused, but Maya could feel the tension. This was the moment they had all been working toward. 1 minute, the launch director said. Maya thought about her father. She wished he could see this. But in a way, he was here. Everything she knew, everything she had become, was partly because of him. His encouragement, his belief in her, his sacrifice so she could pursue her dreams even when those dreams had to wait. 30 seconds. The room fell silent, except for the countdown. Maya's hands were shaking. She gripped the edge of her console and focused on her screens. 10 seconds, 9, 8. Maya held her breath. 7, 6, 5. This was happening. This was really happening. 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. The rocket erupted in fire and thunder. Even from 3 miles away, even in the reinforced control room, Maya could feel the vibration. The spacecraft lifted off, slowly at first, then faster, climbing toward the sky on a pillar of flame. Maya watched her screens. Every reading was perfect. The fuel injection systems were stable. The combustion was smooth. The modifications she had designed were working flawlessly. The rocket that 8 months ago had been failing every test was now carrying astronauts toward space. The spacecraft climbed higher, becoming a bright point of light in the morning sky. Maya tracked its progress on her screen, watching the telemetry data stream in. Everything was green. Everything was perfect. Solid rocket booster separation, someone called out. The spent boosters fell away. The main engines continued burning. The spacecraft kept climbing. Main engine cutoff, came the next call. The engines shut down exactly as planned. The spacecraft was in orbit. The astronauts were safe. The mission was a success. The control room erupted in cheers. Engineers were hugging, crying, celebrating. Maya sat at her console, overwhelmed. They had done it. The Artemis program was back on track. Humans were one step closer to returning to the moon. And she had been part of making it happen. Dr. Chen found her in the chaos. "You did it, Maya," she said, pulling her into a hug. "Your modifications worked perfectly. This mission succeeds because of you." Maya could not speak. She just nodded, tears streaming down her face. She thought about the diner, about serving coffee while reading aerospace journals. She thought about that late-night email, sent in desperation and hope. She thought about being told no, being dismissed, being invisible. And now this, being part of something bigger than herself, something that would be remembered forever. After the immediate celebration, Maya ran to find her guests. They were in the viewing area, all of them crying and laughing at the same time. Her mother grabbed her and held her tight. "That was the most incredible thing I've ever seen," she sobbed. "You did that. You helped make that happen." Frank, tough old Frank who never showed emotion, was wiping his eyes. "I always knew you were special," he said. "I just didn't know how special." Bill was grinning. "I've waited my whole life to see something like that. Thank you for letting me be here." Jenna was the most affected. She was crying so hard she could barely speak. "You showed me that I could be anything," she finally managed to say. "You showed me that where you start doesn't matter. only where you're going. That evening, there was a celebration at Kennedy Space Center. The NASA administrator gave a speech about the mission's success. She specifically mentioned Maya's contributions. This program succeeds because of brilliant engineers from all backgrounds, all paths. Maya Park's journey reminds us that talent exists everywhere. Sometimes it's serving coffee in Arizona, waiting for the right moment. We're lucky she found that moment. We're lucky she found us. The room applauded. Maya stood there, surrounded by her family and friends and colleagues, feeling like the luckiest person alive. She had lost so much. Her father, her education, her confidence, her hope. But she had found them all again in different forms. She had learned that setbacks were not endings. They were just chapters in a longer story. Later, standing outside looking up at the stars, Maya thought about the future. The astronauts would orbit Earth for a few days, testing systems before returning home. Then would come the next mission and the next, each one building toward the ultimate goal of landing on the moon. Maya would be part of all of it. Her work would help carry humans farther into space, help them explore, help them dream. Dr. Chen came to stand beside her. "What are you thinking about?" "I'm thinking about that night in my apartment when I sent the email," Maya said. "I was so scared. I almost didn't do it." "I'm glad you did," Dr. Chen said. "The world is better because you were brave." "I didn't feel brave. I felt desperate." "Sometimes those are the same thing," Dr. Chen said. "Sometimes being brave means doing the thing that scares you because you can't not do it anymore." Maya nodded. She understood that now. She had been brave at the diner, keeping her mind sharp when it would have been easier to let it fade. She had been brave sending that email. She had been brave accepting NASA's offer. She had been brave every day of her life, even when she did not feel like it. "What's next for you?" Dr. Chen asked. Maya smiled. "More rockets. More problems to solve. More chances to prove that anything is possible if you don't give up." "That sounds like a good plan," Dr. Chen said. They stood there together, watching the stars, thinking about the mission currently in orbit and all the missions yet to come. Maya thought about the girl she had been, confident and naive at 18. She thought about the woman she had become at 24, broken and lost. And she thought about who she was now at 28, put back together but stronger for having been broken. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jenna. "Thank you for showing me that dreams don't have expiration dates. I'm going to transfer to a 4-year university. I'm going to be an engineer like you." Maya texted back, "You're going to be better than me. You're going to be incredible." Another text, this time from Frank. "The new waitress asked about you today. I told her your story. She cried. Said it gave her hope. Just wanted you to know you're still inspiring people even from far away." Maya felt tears starting again, but good tears this time. She had not expected her story to matter to anyone but herself. She had not realized that being visible, being honest about her struggles, would give other people permission to keep trying. She thought about all the people out there right now, working jobs that did not match their dreams. All the people who had faced setbacks and thought it was over. All the people who had talents the world could not yet see. She hoped they would hear her story. She hoped they would know that it was never too late, that the path did not have to be straight, that persistence mattered more than perfection. 6 months later, Maya stood on stage at her MIT graduation. She had finally finished her degree. She walked across the stage in her cap and gown, accepted her diploma, and felt a chapter of her life finally close. Her mother was in the audience, crying happy tears. So was Dr. Chen, who had flown up for the ceremony. Maya had been asked to give a short speech. She stood at the podium and looked out at the graduating students, at their excited faces and hopeful eyes. "Some of you are finishing on time," she said. "Some of you took longer, like me. Some of you will go straight into your dream jobs. Some of you will take detours you never expected. All of that is okay. Your timeline is your own. Your path is your own. What matters is that you keep going, even when it's hard, even when you feel lost." She paused, thinking about how to say what she wanted to say. 6 years ago, I walked away from this school thinking I was a failure. But I wasn't failing. I was learning different lessons than the ones taught in classrooms. I was learning about loss and persistence and finding strength in unexpected places. Those lessons made me a better engineer than I would have been if everything had gone according to plan. The audience was quiet, listening. "So if your path gets complicated, if you face setbacks, if you end up somewhere you never expected, Don't think of it as failure. Think of it as preparation. You're learning what you need to know for what comes next. Trust the journey even when you can't see where it's going. The applause was loud. Students stood up. Maya felt a sense of completion wash over her. She had finally finished what she started. But more than that, she had proven that finishing was possible, even after years of delay, even after tremendous loss. That night, back in Alabama, Maya sat in her apartment and thought about everything that had happened. From the diner to NASA, from invisible to celebrated, from lost to found, it had been the longest, hardest journey of her life. But she would not change any of it. The detours had made her who she was. She opened her laptop and started writing an email to the girl from her hometown who wanted to be an engineer, but whose parents doubted her. She wanted to check in, see how the college applications were going, offer more encouragement. As she wrote, Maya realized something. This was part of her job now too, not just building rockets but helping other people reach their dreams, showing them that the path existed even when it was hidden. Her phone rang. It was the documentary director. Maya, I wanted you to know. Your documentary is going to premiere next month. We're calling it The Waitress Who Reached the Stars. I think it's going to inspire a lot of people. Maya hoped so. She hoped that somewhere out there, a person working a difficult job while nursing impossible dreams would see her story, would see that dreams could survive setbacks, would see that the long path and the short path both ended up in the same place if you did not quit walking. She looked at the photo on her desk. Her father smiling at the camera, taken a year before he got sick. We did it, Dad, she whispered. It took longer than we thought. But we did it. Outside her window, the Alabama night was full of stars. Somewhere up there, astronauts were preparing for the next mission. Somewhere in Arizona, Jenna was studying physics. Somewhere in the world, someone was about to give up on their dream. Maya hoped her story reached them in time. Hoped they would choose to keep going, keep trying, keep believing. Because that was the secret. It was not about being the smartest or the most talented. It was about being too stubborn to quit. About keeping your fire alive even when the world tried to extinguish it. About serving coffee while dreaming of rockets and refusing to see those as contradictions. Maya Park had been a waitress. She had been a daughter caring for her dying father. She had been a dropout. She had been invisible. But she had also always been an engineer. She had just been waiting for the world to catch up and notice. Now the world had noticed, and Maya was ready to show them what else she could do.